Okay, so I think the question that has tech hiring slowed down is largely coming from the news articles uh, and alerts that we are getting. So we're getting two kinds of alerts: layoffs happening, and a lot of companies announcing hiring freezes. And this is an example of those kind of news items. International uh, big tech companies have definitely started hiring freezes, or they have started laying off. So these are some of the items. There's a large, in the VC community and any hyper funded or high funded kind of a company setup in that environment. A lot of there's a lot of caution about what's coming up next in next 1 or 2 years or 3 years. So a lot of stuff has been put out because of this. A lot of companies, especially in the big tech companies have announced hiring freezes. So this is the reason why this question gets asked the most. That is it actually a downtime or downturn for the tech hiring. I think when you look at this international news and look at the Indian context, you will see a few companies announcing layoffs in India as well. And the news keeps coming. I think every month we have around 5-10 companies announcing layoffs. So definitely layoffs are happening in India as well. But then there are also contradictory news, like which I've highlighted here. There are a lot of people also think that recession or whatever is happening in the top tech or the top funded kind of setup in US and other developed countries, India may not be directly impacted because of that. So there is always this the contextualization of what is happening in global at a global scale and what's happening in in Indian ecosystem. So I think it's very interesting that how do you actually make sense out of it. So what we did actually is we looked at CutShot's data itself, and this is a data about how many companies are signing up on CutShot, and these are the new companies who are signing up on CutShot every month. And when I look at this data, I'm really not finding much dip in last 4 or 5 months or 3 months. The companies who are coming in, they continue to be stable, or they haven't actually increased since January. So that is one piece of data. The other piece of data is about job postings on CutShot. Again, CutShot is why it's a good source, because CutShot is used by, as I said, a lot of companies on a monthly basis. So you can take an intersection of or a cross section of the kind of audience that is there on today's webinar as well. You will find them to be a very mixed bag. They're coming from different kind of startups, different kind of industries. So it's a good collection of companies who are hiring in tech in India. They're coming from big funded startup space as well. They're coming from profitable startup space, early stage startups, bootstrap startups, services startups. All of them, they form the basket of this segment. So I think from that perspective, it's a good approximation of about for this audience what's happening. So in the job posting, if I look at a job posting, what I'm looking at is in July, since March peak, there's a 20% drop over the peak in terms of job posting data. And I did actually a similar analysis on number of candidates recruiters are unlocking, which means that they're interested in talking to them. So the job postings is new information, new data coming in, but a lot of people are just looking at database, or they're looking at they're hiring still on the older jobs that they're not really posting a new. So all these unlocks, all data also is showing a similar trend of around 20% drop over the highest peak. So it's not a significant drop as of now. There is some drop, but there is very little drop in terms of the companies who are signing up. Which brings us to the interesting question that, okay, if this is happening, this is our data, then what we did is we actually asked companies, we did a survey and we asked them that, okay, what is the hiring status of your company? And there itself, we are seeing a lot of companies actively hiring. Some companies are hiring slowly, and some companies have announced a temporary pause for hiring for 4 months, and some companies are in long-term pause mode. So there is some cross section coming in from there as well. Companies that are largely hiring, but they're also slowing down, especially, and I'll come to that, why it is happening and what are these companies doing. But that's the data that we have got. Second thing that we ask companies is how many jobs openings you have today versus 3 months ago. And again, a lot of companies are saying, a big section of companies saying there's not a much change, not a lot of change. They have similar number of job positions open. And it's almost equal number of companies are saying they have more jobs and fewer jobs. So again, there is no clear trend coming in from there as well. And then what we did actually is, putting together all these pieces and what exactly is happening. While the big tech and the big companies are announcing freezes, at the same time, we are seeing on cut short companies are coming in here to hire, and then they are also unlocking candidates. They're also talking to more candidates. And there's also other interesting pieces that we also saw from the recruiter survey that we did. And what actually we concluded is that the three-tiered model, or three segments of the market that we are actually essentially looking at. The first one is the top tech giants and super funded startups. These are the companies that pay very high salary. These are tech giants, all the bank companies, as well as a lot of funded companies in India as well. And there, definitely, because of the economic status and the changes, there is a lot of companies are announcing pauses. They already overhired too much, so they are now announcing pause. Some of them are laying off, especially because of the funding scenario changing. So in this segment, it's kind of red right now. And that is where I think a lot of news is coming in from. But if you look at the total universe of the companies, this is not a very big number in terms of the overall companies out there. So yes, this segment is kind of gotten affected, and they are stopping to hire, and they are either laying off, they're announcing a pause. But then there is a middle section, which is actually a large section and a much larger section. And here are the companies actually seeing good growth. They're not really dependent a lot on the next rounds of funding happening in 1 or 2 years. They are already seeing good growth in the business model. And a lot of companies which are there in webinar today are actually coming from this bucket. They're not in that tech giant space. They're not in the super funded startup space. And they're seeing good growth plans. They already raised money. They already have money in the bank. They're seeing good progress. And a lot of them are actually actively hiring. And this is what correlates with the previous question that we asked them. Are you actively hiring? So yes, a lot of people are actually actively hiring right now. And then there's some people in this bucket who have actually put themselves in a wait and watch mode. They are still not sure what to do. So largely coming from taking a cue from the top segment, they are actually, they've been asked by their investors, by the management, to take a bit of a break from hiring. And now they have kind of paused their hiring. So they are in a wait and watch mode. Depending on where the market will go from here, they will decide their strategy. So 20% of them are here, and this is why the number of job postings is dropping on cut short as well. This is why the number of candidate unlocks or profile unlocks are getting it's also seeing a drop on cut short. But this is largely a temporary phase. We think it's going to be around 3 months of more clarity that these companies need from the market. And then of course there's a third biggest segment, which is very large tech companies, very stable companies, a lot of startups, early stage startups, raising their pre-series A kind of rounds. And these companies are ideating. These companies have initial money as well. And these are not hiring at a very super high salary. They're hiring at a decent amount of, or a normal amount of salary. And their companies are hiring all the time. There are a lot of people hiring in bulk mode, and all of that is happening. Yeah, so I think this is how we can actually try to make sense of it. Now, once this is understood, we can go to the next question.